Welcome to Raleigh Roots, a podcast about living, working, and raising a family in the Triangle. Join hosts Kate and Catherine for lighthearted conversations, stories, and interviews about what it is really like to live here. Whether you're thinking about moving to the Triangle or have already planted roots here, tune in and listen on your favorite device. And now your hosts, Kate and Catherine.
Hello, Raleigh peeps, and welcome back to Raleigh Roots. We are glad you're here. Do you know
We
what
are
episode?
excited. No, I don't know. We are approaching 20. I do know that. So
All right.
I don't think we're there yet, but maybe this is 20. It doesn't really matter.
Time flies when you're having fun, friends.
That is correct. And we have a great guest today who it's an interesting spin on things because she's not a therapist, technically, correct?
Right. She is what's called a coach.
Okay.
And her name is Anna Howerton. And so we think that this is going to be a good episode for men, women. She's going to give lots of tips on several different things. And so like marriage, divorce, dating after divorce, how to keep your marriage alive.
Yes.
So we want you to tune in. I'm trying to think if there's anything fun going on with the two of us before we begin. We both have kids in
The state
playoffs.
basketball tournaments right now.
Yep. Different teams. So we are all on, rooting each other on.
Yes.
I do have to say I was at our last game and I forget this lady's name. Who's the LSU coach that wears the women's coach? She wears all of the like crazy sequins and fun clothes and she beats the floor.
Yes. Yeah.
Very animated.
Yes.
Well, our last game, I think someone compared me to her. And I was like, holy hell, I need to calm down.
That's all right. My last game, my heart rate went to 130.
Okay.
Have you read that? They've done studies that show watching kids' sports can be the equivalent to working out. And some of Ben's games have definitely brought that to me. I mean, 130, I had to get up and start walking around and I couldn't sit still. It was terrible.
For the love of Mary, I should be like a triathlete and, 1 pound, and I am neither. So we both have kids doing that. We are approaching the end of winter. Praise the Lord.
It's time.
So if you are moving to Raleigh or coming to Raleigh, I'm telling you, I know it's weird. One day it'll be 70, one day it'll be 30. We are getting ready to turn the corner, y'all.
I know spring is almost here. Almost here.
And if you have allergies, like to pollen, start taking your allergy medicine now.
Yeah. PSA. Now is the time to start your allergy medicine because the pollen is going to hit.
Yep.
So get ahead of it.
Yep.
And if you are wanting to evaluate or learn or just kind of explore relationship advice and relationships, then this is a great episode for you.
That's right. Tune in. Thanks for joining. Y'all, she's here. She is here. This is Anna Howerton, and she is a relationship coach. Kate has been married for
21 years.
21 years. Still married, 4 children. Give her a damn kudos and a high five.
Yes.
I am divorced. I was married 18 years and divorced. And Anna divorced, remarried.
Yes. Hey.
So this is great because we've got 3 different walks of life in the same room. And she is a pro and she helps ladies and men.
Yeah.
Do you have men clients?
Yeah, men and women.
Men and women navigate through having a healthy marriage,
Mm-hmm.
also through divorce, and then dating after divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Y'all, I've talked to her, and honey, we could go on for days. Days. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here with both of you. This is really exciting. I've listened to a few episodes, and you guys have great guests and ask good questions. Seems like a good time, so I'm excited to be here.
Good. And you still are going to be able to help us because we all need help every single day.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this kind of motion of life. I know that we talked a while ago when you went through divorce and you were like, oh my gosh, there's a need for this in the world. So tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got here, and your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I married my college sweetheart, was married for about 11 years. He and I together, we lived 5 places in 11 years. So he was in Richmond doing investment banking. I was in DC. We got married, Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, back to Philadelphia, and then Raleigh, like 9 years ago now. So I bounced around a lot as a grown up and had lots of different jobs in talent recruitment and admissions. So I spent 18 years leading global talent teams. I worked in admissions at Wharton, University of Pennsylvania's business school, which is where my kid's dad went for an MBA. And so I spent 18 years interviewing people, assessing them for admissions or jobs or companies and opportunities. So all day, every day, one-on-one with people. And this is kind of a long wind up, but I ended up dating my now husband cross country in California during the start of COVID. And he is a licensed marriage and family therapist. So we were dating during COVID and we're both working remotely. He would come here for a week in Raleigh, then we'd be apart a week, then I would go to California for a week. And when we were working from home during these COVID-y times, we're both lifting our laptops every day. I'm interviewing 8 or 9 people one-on-one, and he's in another room talking to people about love, marriage, divorce, sex, communication, intimacy, all these different things. And I just at some point was like, I want to do that. Like, that's so much more meaningful. I've 18 years asked people, okay, how many people have you hired, fired? What are your career aspirations? What's your P&L? What's your revenue growth projections for this year? And I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So that's one piece of it, was just feeling tired and ready to be in work that felt more meaningful, purposeful, that I was excited to engage every day with people on. But the bigger reason, that's sort of ancillary. The bigger reason is that when I just shared, my ex-husband and I did 5 places in 11 years. When we moved to Raleigh, it was a bit cliche because we were 33, 34. We finally bought a house and had 2 little kids, 4-year-old boy, 2-year-old little girl. And I just had this moment where I was like, is this it? Like, what happens next? Like, I die? We had all this excitement and chaos of moves and jobs and grad schools and babies. And then we moved to Raleigh and everything got quiet and still. And I was able to then take a breath and be like,
Right.
wow, like, I don't know. I don't know if this is what this is supposed to feel like. Like, I think marriage is supposed to feel different. I think I'm supposed to be happier. Is this what it's supposed to be like? Because I'm really young for it to feel this not good.
Right.
But as I shared with you when we spoke a while ago, Catherine, I didn't know one person who was divorced, not one. My dad is a minister. We both went to Carolina, so we have lots of college friends right where we lived, inside the Beltline. We had lots of friends that kind of kept us together in the social fabric of our lives, right? But I just felt so scared and so alone. I had no one to talk to because, of course, I cannot tell one of my good friends that I'm thinking that I'm not happy or maybe want to consider divorce, because they'd be like, you can't leave Tim. What are you talking about? Your friends don't want you to split up. And of course, my dad is a minister, so my family was unsupportive. And I had a therapist who I love, shout out Caroline, who I've referred many people to Caroline,
Yes.
many. So I know she is appreciative of that, I'm sure. But Caroline lives in North Raleigh and had 2 young girls at the time. This is, a while ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And but she had never been divorced. And so at some point I just was like, she can't tell me what to do. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what I'm actually going through. She doesn't know how I'm feeling. She doesn't know what the next step is. Also, I don't know if you felt like this, Catherine, but when you're thinking about divorce and all the logistical steps, it's like, I needed someone to tell me, like, what's the
Yeah.
next thing I need to do? Like,
Yeah.
I needed someone to coach me on how to go about, first of all, making the call whether or not to leave, but then also the actual logistical steps. I didn't know any divorce attorneys in Raleigh. I asked my realtor. I was like, should I, what's a divorce?
A
I didn't even
realtor is
know.
always a
We
wealth
know.
of knowledge.
Yeah,
You do.
Yeah. We've
Yeah.
got plenty.
Yes, yes.
Yes, plenty.
So anyways, that's a really long wind up to say I basically a couple years ago had my last role had been at a growth stage company here in Raleigh that I loved, and it was great. I was there 4.5 years, grew the company, and it just got to the growth kind of stagnated. And I just realized I want to start a coaching business to help people where I was when I felt so alone, to really, turn my sadness, my pain into my purpose of like, I don't want someone to feel as alone as I did in that
lost.
season. Yeah, and
Yeah,
lost.
and lost. And I've always said this, even in anything, until you walk shoes, it's hard, right? Some of it's common sense. And thank goodness I had so much support through my divorce with married friends, and my parents are still married. And I've got friends that have never been gotten married and they were also supportive, but it does have a little bit more bearing and weight when someone says, I know what you feel like because I've lived it, right?
Yes, yeah.
Like my dad, he's, a therapist and retired now and substance abuse, but he walked through that in life personally. And so he can look at someone and be like, I know how you feel. I've lived
Yes,
it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that is meaningful. And it doesn't mean that I mean, look, you are remarried and you can kind of cover all the grounds, but when you're walking through something new in life, it's scary.
It's so scary. And I had gotten married young and had kids young, married my college sweetheart. So I had a couple friends who got married slightly earlier and had kids slightly. So this is so I could always ask those girlfriends, what was it like? How was your wedding planning? What was it? What was your newborn experience? What was your birth experience like? This was the first major life thing that I had zero. I had no one to say,
Yeah.
how did you think about this, Catherine? What did you do?
Yeah.
How did you think about this? I had no one to ask.
Yeah.
I had no roadmap.
I think too, my parents divorced when I was little. When I was in 5th grade, I think the divorce was final. So how you say like your dad, was a minister or a preacher and they weren't supportive. So it's funny. My husband's parents are married. They were married 50 years, almost 50 years. And then my parents split and were divorced. So the thought of not being ever not getting divorced has never been a thought in my head. It was like, of course you can get divorced because I already lived it
Right.
as a child.
Yeah.
Parents split up,
Yeah.
people get divorced. It was the best thing that happened for our family was my parents splitting up. Best thing ever. It was a gift, but I wonder too psychologically how much that plays in feeling trapped. If you feel like just to have that over your head of I can't
Totally.
get out or it's not going to be accepted, that's got to feel just totally claustrophobic for me and
oppressive.
just extra weight that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah. Since we moved all over, I have a handful of girlfriends on the West Coast, and one of them was like, "Oh my God, just move out here. Everyone's divorced."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's right because I ended up marrying someone who's from California.
Well, and I do think years ago, and I would love to see statistics at some point, but I think it's pretty obvious. Divorce wasn't as accepted in our parents. You didn't hear a lot of people that did get divorced, and it was like so shameful. And you can speak to this way more than me, but I think that women did not have the same opportunity. Economically, financially, they did not have. They were the homemakers, and they didn't have that option to leave. And I am an advocate to stay married. Oh my gosh, stay married if you can. If you can make it work and you're happy, yes. So but I think that women now have more opportunity to live on their own, right?
Yeah, a lot more agency.
And so that's good. But but it's commendable for your parents during that because not as many people got divorced.
I also
right?
grew up north. So here I do believe that there is a geographical divide here.
Yep.
Now, in my elementary school, I was the only kid that was divorced.
Really?
Like the very first one. But I grew up in a very tiny town.
Yeah.
There was 3 elementary schools based on where you lived in the town. And I'm pretty sure we were the first ones to get divorced.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of like, oh my God, none of my parents, none of my friends' parents are divorced.
Yeah. My son said that to me when he was in 3rd grade at Lacey. He was like, "Mom, we're the only family where you guys are divorced."
Really?
And I was like, "Buddy, it's not entirely true, but it feels true when the kids are little." And I was like, "I hate to say this, but as you get older, more of your friends' parents are going to get divorced. Your dad and I were just on the front end. Like we were just,
you were like, we were first.
Yeah.
Give
it's
us
so
the medal,
much better to do it
So
earlier
much
than
better.
later. Like my girlfriends that their parents, as soon as like the last kid went to college, they split. Psychologically, that did so much more damage
It's the worst
to my
time.
peers than it did when we were younger. Because all of a sudden you're 18, you're going to college, your parents split up, and you're like, so
Your whole world is rocked.
like not only that, but like, was my entire history with you a lie?
Yep.
Were you ever happy?
Yeah.
When did you want to leave each other?
Yeah.
Did you love each other? All these trips we went on as a family in high school. Like, what kind of crap is this?
Yes.
I mean, it's a huge betrayal.
100%. Yeah, actually, you're dead on. The studies show the most traumatic age for children to have their parents separate, late teens, early 20s.
Yes,
Well,
100, and I can
I
100%
might be in the front
understand
cusp of
that.
that, maybe. I was like, uh-oh.
No, your boys were younger.
Yeah, they were
Yeah, they were
younger.
much
I'm sorry. I was sitting
younger.
there thinking,
Yeah,
oh, hell,
late.
let me go get a
Yeah.
second job for some extra therapy for
Yeah.
my
No,
kids.
no,
No,
late.
it's literally like 18, 19, like early 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, that is the most traumatic time.
And some people wait and say, let my kids get out of the house and go to
We're saying,
college.
don't do
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
do
don't.
it.
Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
I've
The
told more
worst.
people
Good.
to say that have brought this up, like, I'll just wait. And I'm like, don't do it
Don't.
now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, because the second they're old enough to truly get what this all looks like and what a
Yeah.
relationship is, if you are choosing to wait, they know you're waiting for them.
Yeah.
They know you waited. It doesn't feel any better. It actually
Yeah.
makes them feel like it's more their fault. Like,
100%.
you stayed together because you did this for me, and yet you were unhappy and miserable, and that's now my fault.
Right. And that's not a burden they asked for.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, let's go back and kind of reel it into the marriage piece, because when we talked about preparing for this, we were going to try to dissect it. And look, we may have to have 3 episodes, right? We may have to come back 3 times. But let's talk about marriage first and some healthy pieces of that to keep that alive and healthy. And when should you stay together? When should you seek advice on, going your separate ways? Tell us a little bit about, and I know it's different. You could line up 20 couples and you're gonna have different advice for everybody. But tell us, is there a certain age where people think, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore? Have you seen that in studies? Tell us a little bit about how you counsel people. When should you stay and when should you go?
Yeah, great question. So I typically say I work with people in relationships who are in crisis. So that could be people who are in a marriage, they want to stay married, but they need a pattern break. They need a dynamic change. Something's got to change because what they're doing now isn't sustainable. And so I definitely coach individuals and couples on how to stay married if that's their goal. And the reality is the best strategy to continue to have a healthy, vibrant marriage, this is going to sound cheesy, is to stay in love. Like, you've got to stay in love. If you fall out of romantic love, it is really hard to A, get it back, and then B, to not just be resigned to, um, existing in a partnership, in a cohabitation, and just a true, like, hey, we manage the house, we manage the kids, but we're not actually in love. We don't actually feel tenderness towards one another or intimacy. We don't actually want to have sex and, am I allowed to say that for
Yes.
Okay. Fuck each other's brains out. Like, when you lose that,
That's my favorite word. Yes. you
yeah,
can.
it's really hard to get it back. So what I encourage people who are in a tough spot when they come to me, I try to get them focused back and anchored on, like, what is it you loved about him when you guys first fell in love? What is it you loved about her when you first fell in love? We've got to reconnect with those things that, fill your tank, fill your emotional tank so that you feel warm towards them. Because I'm sure both of you have experienced this as, women in love and marriage and dating and relationships. Like, your guy will do something for you and you're just like, oh my God, thank you for doing that. Like, you did that without even asking. Like, you all of a sudden feel your love tank fill up.
Yeah.
And so when people are struggling and they're like, should I stay or should I go? The first thing I say is, hey, let's look at what are the things that really ring your bell or ring his bell. And, like, let's see if we can't get you guys filling each other's love tank or bank again in a way that makes you feel amorous towards one another, and tenderness and intimacy and a desire to remember what it is that made you fall in love in the first place.
Right. And for me, and I think sometimes that can change. Like, I look back and I was never really an affectionate person. And I don't know what's happened. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, the affection and the human touch feels great, right? And I did not like that for a long time. And I'm like, I don't know why. Like, that's just, so some of that can change,
Yeah.
but to come in tune with that, right?
It
is neat.
shifts. It
Yeah.
all shifts. I mean, what we
Yeah.
were like at 20 is definitely not what we're like at 45.
Right.
Now, are
Exactly. Yeah.
couples that are married, when they figure out, okay, this is why I fell in love, this is what I love, do they have to kind of force that to get that back in place, or just make sure that hey, we got to take the time and get back here so let me come up with a to-do list. Let me come up
Yeah.
with like how we get back there.
For some, I actually have a good girlfriend who she basically has like made a list of things that she knows make her husband feel loved. And so she has like a note in her phone. She's like, okay, I got to do this for him this week. I've not done this. I'm going to do this for him. So some of it is potentially making a list if that works for your personality. But
I love a list. You know what I mean? I'd be like,
yeah,
okay, make sure that you have sex once a week. Check.
yeah,
Make sure that, I'd have to
Oh,
go.
see, nope, that would be the opposite. That would
Yeah.
be like completely dwindling. I'd be like, this is a job and I'm out.
yes. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that would not.
You got to do what works
could
for
not.
your
Yeah, exactly. That would
personality.
just psychologically, I'd be like, this isn't a marriage. This is a job.
Right.
And I mean, marriages are hard.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
They
there
say
is
marriages
nothing
are like a job,
easy.
second job.
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of all over the board,
Mhm.
but is there a healthy number of times you should have sex a week?
We are all over the board.
I know. Sorry. I guess.
no, I love it.
Following our
No, I love it.
I know.
I know everyone. This is the $1 million question on any podcast that talks about relationships, sex, marriage. I think what is ideal in a marriage or relationship is that what's ideal is the two people are synced on what they like sexually in terms of frequency and type and duration and all that. What's really, challenging is if you're not synced on it. But I would say, in my personal opinion, I mean, I think to have a healthy relationship, it's got to be 2 to 3 times a week, I think.
Lord have mercy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we actually spoke to an OBGYN and she said, because we were talking about the perimenopause situation and how obviously our sex drives are changing. And she did say that the studies show for us to continue to kind of stay healthy in that arena, it needs to be twice a week.
Yeah.
And
it's the glue. Sex is the glue.
it is.
It's the only thing that separates your relationship with your husband than me and
Anything else.
Catherine.
Yeah,
like,
right,
because you can go on a walk with us. You could go to dinner with us. We can
Yes.
go on a trip together.
Yeah,
Sex
yeah.
is literally the only thing that's different
You know
about your
what?
romantic
It is.
partnership.
I've never thought about it like
Yeah.
that. I love that.
So true.
Because it's
true.
the only thing that sets you apart
Right.
from anybody else.
Yeah.
That is your bond.
It's
So
the
your private bond.
Yeah.
That leads
I
me
like
to
that.
this is something that my husband and I have talked about a lot. So we have 4 kids. Our first one just went to college.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. But we still have a 17-year-old, 14-year-old, and 11-year-old.
Mm.
So it is so much harder now to find time where there's like we are safe in the house
Yes. Yeah.
than ever. When they
Yeah.
were younger, way easier. Yes, I was more tired and like more saturated with them touching me all the time.
Yeah.
And like, it's like that.
On you.
Oh
Yeah.
God. And you're just like the last thing you want. It's just nobody else. Like
Mhm.
nobody else. They don't do that anymore. And now but they're always there.
Mhm.
Somebody's always there,
Yeah.
or they're popping up, or they're in the kitchen, or they're everywhere. It gets harder and harder the older they get. And nobody warned me for that. I mean, nobody warned that. I think the hardest time for a marriage is with high schoolers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a girlfriend who schedules sex with her husband and they have 3 older kids and I mean, they've moved to like the lunchtime date. Like
Well, that we do the lunchtime thing too.
they
It's
meet
the
at
only
home.
time.
Yeah, the kids are at school, you meet at home,
Yep.
12:30,
Yep.
like
Yep.
have your time and
Yep.
or I mean also, there's also a world in which you get comfortable with being like, okay, kids, like Dad and I are going upstairs. You guys find something to do. And because I'm pretty sex positive and I wish there was less like a shroud of like, we don't talk about it or we don't talk about it within families that, I would love to talk about sex like it's talking about the weather, and I know kids are like, oh, mom and dad, and they're so grossed out. But at the same time, we were just saying about an example you want to set is a couple that's in love and that
Right.
loves each other. And while the kids in the moment are like, oh my God, you guys are literally announcing that you're going to go shut the door and lock the door or go get in the shower together. Ugh. Like
Right.
once they're older, they're going to be like, that was so rad.
Yeah.
That, like my parents were in love and they wanted to have sex.
Yeah. I knew a couple growing up from my hometown, and they would say, we don't necessarily have to be doing that, but we will always have 30 minutes of time alone to talk, to bond.
Smart.
Yeah.
And so if we're in our room and the door is shut, we could be in here discussing a family matter or private time.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of a good thing because then a kid's not going to automatically be like, oh my God,
Right.
I'm
That's
here
true.
having sex. So I think that's a great piece of advice to say, 2 times a week or 3 times a week, we may have time in the bedroom to discuss financials or something
Yeah.
important, or to,
Mhm.
bond with each other. But I never did that. But I mean, I'm not married anymore. But I do think I think that's a neat little thing to think
Yeah.
about.
Well, and also the expectation or the goal to have 2 to 3 times a week physical intimacy, also that's preventative of not letting resentment stay and build up. Because if you're like, okay, I'm gonna get intimate with my husband in 2 days, we've got to work out this conflict we just had. We have to figure out this disconnect. Like, I need him to emotionally engage with me and apologize for being an asshole, or like I need to say, hey, I don't like the way you did this. It forces connectedness, because if you know that you're going to be intimate soon, then you can't just I think people, I have clients come to me all the time. We haven't had sex in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years.
Whoa.
And I'm like, how did this happen?
And they're still married?
Yeah, but they're on the way out usually. I mean, that's pretty hard to come back from.
I
10
mean,
years, 5 years, 3
what?
years. Yeah.
What?
How does that happen? That's
Well,
always,
that,
yeah. How
and
does
then
that
we just
happen?
had, a PI on the show, and we were talking about infidelity, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we were talking about. And she's like, pickleball's like the new place, that you're picking up your
Yeah.
whatever,
Mistress.
Your
Yeah.
side
mistress,
piece, Kate.
yeah,
It's called a side
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
piece.
side piece. It's kind of the new thing, but I mean, I can't imagine 1, 2, 3 years. I mean, even if we're close to a month, I freak out.
Right. Yeah.
Do men need, like, physically, I don't even mean mentally, to have sex more often to release than women?
I think in general that's probably true. However, I think that it is a misconception that all men are like that. I think in a spectrum of like sexual libido and desire, more men are more aggressively on the need it, want it, gotta have it. But there are many men all the way across that plot line of like, I'm fine if I have it once a week. I'm fine once a month. Like there are many men who are not so aggro about needing it, and there are plenty of women who need it. And I mean, I work with people where the women wanted it more than the man, and they weren't getting it, and that was a big source of dissatisfaction. And I also, as a woman, I hate that women would ever feel shameful
Yeah.
that like, yeah, I
Yeah.
want it, I need it, like I need to get fucked, like
Yeah.
like that is important to me, and I don't want. It's tough because then I think sometimes women feel weird if they want it a lot, because women are usually like, oh God, like I have to have sex. Like, but it is interesting because women who are the most interested in sex and connected to sex, and their libido are really comfortable in their bodies. And I think what's so hard about being a woman for, millennia is that we've been told to disconnect from our body, and our body's a vessel for children or just for the man's pleasure. Or,
Right.
we've had all these horrible stories that we have to fight against of women being raised in the US and women in general. So I do feel sad that like women I know who are like not that into sex, or and like, don't have a solo sex practice, which I think is insane, like they don't masturbate. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I think they're disconnected from their bodies.
And maybe they've never done it, and once they try it, they're like, "What? I've been missing this shit,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because a lot of women and when you get around women that feel comfortable talking about that, whether it's sex or, pleasing yourself or whatever it is, I think women, they'll be like, okay, well, other people are doing it's okay. And once they finally do it, they're like, oh, holy hell,
Yeah.
let's go back to this
Yeah.
fun time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if the husband or the wife or spouse or your partner says, I just am not going to go to counseling?
Yep.
What do you suggest?
Yeah, I had a client in Charlotte earlier this year who came to me and was essentially like, my husband refuses to go. We're in a bad spot. Like
Yeah.
he was doing some gnarly things, but she just, did not want the shame and sadness of divorce and who's going to date me. I have 3 kids, all these things. And so I just said, look, let's say her name was Tina.
Tina Turner is one of my most favorite people. Let's use Tina.
I was like, Tina, like, here's the thing. You have 2 choices. You stay in your marriage with your husband, and you have to fully recognize and release that you are choosing to live a life with someone who is refusing to have a growth mindset, who has basically said to you, I care more about my own stagnant, selfish position than I do about you and growing and changing, paying attention to your emotional needs, what you are asking of me, I'm good. I don't need to change. We're good. Like, take it or leave it. And I said, you can choose that. Your growth and your journey then is releasing the sadness that you are never going to have a fully intimate partnership because you're with someone who's basically said, like, F you, I'm not changing, I'm not growing. You can choose that. I can support you in that. And I'll give you strategies and tools on how to release that sadness and grieve that you are not going to be with someone who actually cares about you in an intimate way. Or, I can help you on the path of thinking through, you know what? I deserve more. I deserve to be with someone who cares about me and my needs. And when I ask for something and say that, hey, this is really important to me, I want us to both grow and change and adapt throughout life.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, I think there's someone out there I could do that with.
Right.
And that's a real tough one for me because in my mind, it's pretty black and white, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There are many reasons people stay and are super fearful. I try to starkly paint that picture of this is what your life looks like if you stay. No problem. It's your choice. But here's what you're giving up. Here's a possibility of, what would it look like to live a life with someone who really cares about you and wants to pursue growth?
I guess it's up to the person to reach that point, right? Because,
Mhm.
somebody could be like, oh my gosh, I'm in this rut. I feel unhappy, which I think is a common thing for everybody. But when does someone just really know? I mean, it's just the answer is you'll know when you know. Is that it? When to leave or to stay? Or, I mean, that's a hard
But I'm
question.
not sure you ever, because I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the people I know that have left or are in the process of leaving during that process, they're going back and forth still in
Yeah.
their head
Mhm.
of maybe we'll get back on
I
track.
did, y'all. I lived
Or,
it.
right? Like
I
maybe,
lived,
or
yes.
did I do the right thing? Or I'm not sure if this was, okay. Or maybe I was too impulsive, or you just kind of got to
Figure it out.
figure it
Yeah.
out.
And I don't know if you felt this way through yours. And my ex and I, we went through, gosh, 15 years of counseling. And I am one of these fighters, like, I'm not going to fail on something. I'm not going to give it up. I'm not going to let this end. And I went through every stage. I don't want to leave my kids. I will sacrifice my own happiness to be around my kids. I mean, you go through, or I
Yeah.
went through a million stages.
Mhm.
And then I did have some people that had gone through divorce to be like, you'll just know. And personally, I was like, I don't want my kids to repeat this. I want them to know that
Yeah.
being in a healthy home with affection and love and communication is so important.
Yep.
And we weren't providing that.
Right.
And so it's scary as hell.
So what it is it's a value assessment. And so that's what I do. If people come to me in divorce contemplation, which is a main area of what I coach people on, is my job is to ask the right question for two things. One, to get them to their own inner knowing, their own intuition, but it's to do a value assessment and say, as you thought about it, Catherine, you were like, oh, what about this? And I should stay because of this, right? You have these columns. I should stay, I should leave, I should stay, I should leave. But what do you value most? Like, what is the thing you value most? And it sounds like you got to the point where you were like, I value most my boys seeing a couple that is in love. And that I'm going to say that's my highest value. So what do you value most? Like, do you value your picture perfect family in the third row of church every Sunday?
Right.
Do you value your country club membership? Because you might
Yes.
lose that if you
Yes.
break up. Do you value your friend group? Because you're going to fuck up the supper club if you don't stay
Yep.
married. What do you value most? Like,
Mhm.
and it's hard for women especially to say, I value myself the
Yeah.
most. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be happy. I'm not happy. And part of it is recognizing what are things that are fixable in a marriage, in a person, in a relationship, and what things are never going to change. For me, in my own value assessment of my first marriage, my ex-husband is a incredibly good guy, solid, like salt of the earth, wonderful person. But there are things about him and there are things about me that no amount of counseling, therapy, coaching was ever going to change. There are fundamental differences about his personality and my personality that I realized were never going to fully fill my tank. And I realized that I just was going to be a better co-parent with
Yep.
him than I
Yep.
was lover, romance partner for the rest of our lives.
I love that.
Well, and everybody is different. I mean, that's what we even talked about in the last show too, is that everybody kind of has their breaking point.
Right.
Some people can get through infidelity.
Mhm.
They don't want the
Yeah.
marriage to break up. They can do that. They can work through it. They can move on. some people, that's an end all be all.
Yes. Yep.
You know,
Point.
the pressure of that is crazy. And again, I'm just speaking from personal experience. You hear most people, oh my God, they are splitting up because there was infidelity or a drug problem or an alcohol problem. And there were days that I would be like, I wish that would happen. So I'd have a reason, right? So I would have a reason. And I
Yeah.
don't wish that on anybody, but you go through these stages and it's odd for people to be like, well, they separated just because they weren't compatible and are
Yeah.
truly different. And that's hard to explain to people. Like,
It's very hard.
we didn't have, there was no affair, there was no, drug problem there.
Yeah.
And
We
there were,
fell out of love.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you fell out of love, and there's
100%.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not.
yeah.
Mhm.
We're human beings.
And y'all,
Yeah.
we have one shot to get around the sun, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
We
say that
got
all the
one-
time. This is
one-
not the
one-
dress rehearsal. This is the main part right
no.
now. So, I have clients that are like, oh, maybe we should wait 5 years or whatever. I'm like, you can wait 5 years till your kids go to college, but like that's 5 years loss of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also probably going to be much hotter now. Don't you want to be dating now?
Honey, let me tell you, and the older you get, it's harder. Those boobs keep getting a little lower.
I heard the Botox filler episode.
Honey, practice Botox if you've got to get out in the dating world. And we've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
plenty of people that can help with that.
Yes.
Okay, 3 tips you would give a couple to stay in a healthy marriage.
Yeah. One of my favorite tips for people to stay connected and thriving in a marriage is to have daily rituals. I
Okay.
think it's so important to find little moments to connect. Like, you've got 4 kids, busy jobs,
Yeah.
but like, do you guys have a moment that you steal, like at breakfast or right when you wake up or right as you're going to bed, where you make eye contact? So making eye contact is huge because I did not do that enough in my first marriage. It was just a constant battle of like, you pack this lunch, you take this kid, I'll take this kid, I'll do this practice, you do that practice, all the things. And I just, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, we rarely made eye contact in a day. Like, that sounds insane, but it's true. Like I love your friends' parents who did 30 minutes of alone time, eye contact, daily ritual of where do we find a moment to connect? Do we have some little, like, does your husband always make her coffee and you like leave him a sweet little note? Or do you guys make sure you share a 6-second kiss before you go to bed? Or do you guys go to bed at different times? Like I'm a big fan of going to bed at the same time. I think that is huge for marital and relationship success. And then warm greetings and excitement when you are reunited. It's a really big deal, actually, if you think about it. Every time your partner leaves, like to give a little kiss or a hug. My husband says it's so silly. I get up early, I work out early, I make the kids lunches, my kids come down. And when my husband comes down a little bit after me waking up, I'm always like, hello, like, welcome to Wednesday. Or I'm so, I'm just sort of silly, but he says it makes him feel so good.
Yeah.
Like these little moments of me being excited to see him, right?
I have recently, and again, this whole new affection thing is different for me, but I am not a cheesy person, but I have been texting someone and I'm like, I hope you crush your day.
Yeah.
Or I hope you
Yeah.
and when you're married for so long, you just don't do that anymore.
You
You
don't.
should.
Yeah.
And if he's like, it really makes me feel great. It
Yeah.
really does give me a little boost of energy. And it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
If I get those, like, I hope you're rocking your day, whatever.
Yeah.
Those feel great.
The small
and we forget
moment.
to do that.
Yes. One of the best quotes is from a top psychologist, couples therapist out of New York, Esther Perel. And she says, you don't own your partner. The minute you think you
Yeah.
own your partner, you're toast.
Yep.
And she says, your partner is on loan with option to renew.
I love it.
And so
Say that again.
your partner is on loan with option to renew. So you don't own them. So like people who have the best marriages, there is that cheesy phrase, you date forever, date your spouse.
Yeah.
That's real. Like it's so cheesy, but I love the phrase. And even Mark and I, my now husband, will say like, you want to renew, like after we've had a big fight or like,
Yeah.
hit this when we were dating, we've been together almost 5 years now, 6 months, a year. Like, do you want to renew? So that you never take them for granted.
I like that. That's so good.
I think the dating part is key too. I mean, I will say that's the one part that I will get sad about and reach out and say,
Mhm.
I want to go on a date. Like, I miss dating. I miss
Mhm.
doing things.
Yeah.
When the kids were little, I had a Wednesday night babysitter and we would go work out and then we'd go to dinner. It was like
Thing.
or it was a night to be free. He could go guys' night, I could do girls' night. Now the kids have something every single night.
They have a game or
yeah,
practice.
there's something.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It just kind of shifts.
But I do think that it's important to realize that you have to put that work in. Like me being kind of back in this dating world, putting the energy in the first 3 and 4 months is fun and exciting, but then you start to get in this stage of, oh, we're kind of used to it. And that's hurtful, right? Like you're like, put in the energy to bring the excitement in. You got to put the work in.
And acceptance is huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think in 21 years, that's the one thing I will take away always and tell all my kids is that you don't have to accept everything, but you do have to accept who your person is.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of us were raised on accepting, hoping or thinking this might change.
Right. Yeah.
Or hoping or thinking that eventually they'll grow out of this. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Right,
And
yeah.
when the kids were little, I told my therapist, we want to have a date every week, but why do I always have to be the one to set up the date?
Yeah.
There are certain things that Tim does, and there are certain things that he does not. If I leave the date on his radar to do, it's going to get kicked down.
Mhm.
It's just, he wants to go on the date, but he's not the
Right.
person to set it up. And she just said, she's like, sometimes you just have to accept this might be one of your roles.
Do you have resentment about that though? See,
I did until I accepted the
You
fact
released
that
it.
this is actually very important to me.
Yeah.
And so why is it not okay for me to take ownership and say, I'm going to set up our date every Wednesday night?
Yeah.
And it ended up making us both better.
Right. Now that's fine as long as there are other ways that he's filling your tank.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you get nitpicky.
Right.
I mean, we
Yeah,
all do.
yeah.
You're with
Yeah.
somebody for a long time.
So what you
start
have
to start
to-
picking on stuff.
You have to anchor in to then, okay, my husband's not great at planning dates, but
Yes.
he is great at X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
These are pillars that he really, oh God, just lights my fire,
Yeah.
lights me up. Like, oh, I feel so loved. I wish he would do this thing, but he won't. Now, if there aren't other pillars and X, Y, Z's that he's doing to fill your tank and bolster your love, then the date night becomes a big fucking deal. You
Right,
know? Like,
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I mean, and again, everybody speaks from personal experience. You know, I got to the point I was like, can we go on a date once a quarter? Y'all, that's 4 times a damn year. That's terrible. I'm like, I don't care if you take my ass to Wendy's and get me a junior bacon cheeseburger. I want it once a quarter. Who in the hell can't make that happen? Well, we did not.
Right.
We did not. And that resentment built, right? But you're right. Other parts of the tank were not being full either.
Right.
Because I do think you can balance stuff because
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. Oh my God. I mean, I made a million mistakes.
Yeah.
So you have to give up some sort of like crazy expectation, but you have to be filled in other ways.
You do. And it
Yeah.
goes to, I wanted to ask you about the love languages. So like Tim's is touch is one of his. It's my absolute bottom.
Mhm.
On my chart.
Wow.
I could give a crap less. I don't need a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. Now we both have quality times. Acts of service is mine, which is why I was like, where's my date? There's no acts of
Yeah.
service on his thing.
Mhm.
So we both work hard, but he's gotten very good at saying, I need a hug.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
good.
Like I need a hug.
Asking for
Like
what
I
you
just
need.
and
Yeah.
that's like, okay. Well, if he's gonna ask me for it, I'm not gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna give you a hug.
Yeah, I love that.
And then me actually asking for some of the acts
Yeah.
of service. I think there's
Yeah.
the communication aspect because the love languages, this is how I perceive love. That's how he perceives
Mhm.
love. And we're not on the same page. And I'm sure a lot of couples are not.
Yeah, for sure. And you love with what you feel loved by. So
Yes,
that's how
exactly.
you lead. And then that doesn't necessarily translate or
Yeah.
register with your partner. Cause I'm not acts of service. And so like if my husband makes me a cup of tea, I'm kind of like, well, whatever, but like if I make him a cup of tea, he's like, oh my God, thank you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
I love this book called His Needs, Her Needs. It was written in the early 80s by this guy Willard Harvey, and he created an emotional needs inventory with 10. So I actually like that a bit better than the 5 love languages because obviously
Okay.
5 love languages is classic and the 5 categories that Gary Chapman uses, but Harvey's list is a bit more like drilled down on these 10 different areas. And there's actually a tool that I use with couples and individuals like who are starting to date after divorce. Like I should give it to you, Catherine. Like, because it helps
Give
you
it to me, sister.
it helps you identify like what are my core values of like things that make me feel loved. So it's similar to the love languages, and they are like affection, admiration, domestic support, financial support, physical attractiveness, sex, intimate conversation, honesty and openness. Things like that. And so it's a bit broader because there's 10, not just 5. And then it has you kind of say, how important are each of these? And then you kind of see like, wow, in order for my needs to be met, my love tank or bank to be filled, I need to have recreational companionship. Somebody's got to have fun with me. Like fun is my highest value, or physical attractiveness. I got to be with somebody who's a 10 out of 10, or, intimate conversation. I need someone who's open to talk, 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 talk. Like you figure out what that is. And so for me, once I did this assessment after I was divorced, it was enlightening to me, because I was like, oh, I think that like my core values were not able to be met by my first husband just because of our fundamental personality differences. But I think that's a great thing when you're dating after divorce, when you get another shot, to basically say like, okay, I am not like, if recreational companionship is one of my top 3 values, I can't be with somebody who likes to watch every single show on Netflix. I got to be with someone who wants to hike, bike, swim, run, do CrossFit, whatever.
And I think, I mean, I would think, and you tell me that could be helpful even in if you've been in a 20-year marriage, to go back and
Yes.
revisit that, because
Yes.
sometimes we forget what our own
Yes.
core values are,
Mhm.
right? You can sit and compare and be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we have either
Yeah.
changed a little bit, or let's revisit what makes us tick, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And because it drills down even more than the 5 love languages, it could also help you get little wins of just like, yeah, actually, I love, honesty and openness. I love when we have long conversations. Like that might fill my tank. And so Mark, my husband, is actually a licensed marriage, family, and therapist. So he and I do some 2-on-2 work together. And we recently went through this exercise with a couple that have been married 20 years. And it was great for them to really like make notes and say like, yep, like this is super important. Figure out where they were aligned, figure out where they were misaligned. And then you have your growth. Like, here's your homework, Kate. Here's you and Tim's homework.
Yeah.
You need to, realize this is important to him. This is important to you. Here's how you guys connect.
I do think couples counseling is key for anybody.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
whether your
Yeah.
marriage is thriving or not,
Yeah.
I still think to have that tool is very important.
Yes, because in a container with 2 people, you've got to have a third party objective.
Yes.
To help
And
you
an
know.
unbiased, unaffiliated.
Unbiased. Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll never
Yeah.
forget. I heard Dak Shepard say on his podcast years ago that when he and Kristen Bell first started dating, he's like, we started seeing a therapist within 3 months because,
Yeah.
he's pretty fiery. I think she can hold her own.
Yeah.
And he was basically like, if we don't like work some of this shit out right away, like we're just going to blow up,
Toast.
you know?
Yep.
And at
Yep.
first I was like, wow, 3 months of dating. And then now me and my husband, we started seeing a therapist right away. Cause it's like,
Oh
we
my God.
had so much potential, but if we didn't have somebody help us work out those kinks, and ideally you do it at the beginning so they don't become baked into the foundation of a relationship. And then that's a much harder pattern break than if you get it when the cement is wet.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of men struggle, and I mean, women too, with the counseling piece. They're not comfortable with it. They aren't used to it.
Yep.
And they automatically think, I'm going to be attacked. She's going to go down this list and say, I do this, 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 and this. But you need an unaffiliated, unbiased third party to help you get through life, relationship, job, friends. It doesn't matter. That's your safe zone for an hour. I think it's such a healthy thing to have, and should not have a negative or a bad stigma with it. You know?
And what's crazy is that it's your most important relationship, or it should be. We are not taught classes in high school, in college, in grad
That's
school, unless you go to school to be a marriage and family therapist. You don't get classes on how to be in partnership, how to stay in love, how to be in relationship, how to communicate, how to have intimacy. Like we are not taught these things, which is insane. Like it arguably has the biggest outsized impact on your happiness across the arc of your life. And most people are ill-equipped.
Right. And you would think it would be intuitive, and it's not.
It's
for
not.
a lot of people.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
right.
not, but we're all going to change and evolve, or we should be,
Yeah.
as we're aging and
Yes.
experiencing life.
Yeah.
But so is your partner,
Yeah.
and you're not having the same experience.
Yeah.
Even though you're married, you're not.
Yeah.
So making sure you're connecting back to each other as you're evolving, as you are changing, and work together. But
And anytime I start talking about marriage, I'm like, don't listen to me because mine did not work. But no, I do think it's great to have people that have walked through it. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, if you can live your one life on this earth and make it work, you're going to have hard times, right?
yeah,
And part of that kept me in my marriage. Like, nothing's perfect. And if I leave this, that's another thing.
Yeah. And you're indoctrinated like the grass isn't always greener, which is true a lot of the times, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
so
You
for
got
the
it.
person
You got it, sister.
for the person that's listening, that is struggling and is going, the grass is always greener, or I'm just not fulfilled, or I don't feel loved or seen. Like, what would you suggest to them?
Well, they should come talk to me.
I was about to say, call Anna
This is what I talk about all day, every day, or any
Yes.
therapist or coach, anyone that's, a trusted person that does this as their whole job and is certified or trained in it. Because you need someone to ask you the smart questions to help you get to a conclusion of, can you stay and not slowly die and self-abandon yourself through the rest of your life with things that are not acceptable or are unkind things that will make you so sad and like a shell of yourself. I mean, that's what I hear all the time. I don't know if you felt like this, Catherine, but if you stay in an unhappy marriage or one that's really not fulfilling, where you don't feel seen or loved or known, you just you're like a dead man walking. You're just walking around. Like you're like a shell. You're just going through the motions. You're loving your kids. You're present with them. You're present with your friends. Maybe you're doing your job. You're making money or whatever, but you're just like, this is not it. Like there's some part of me that's dead inside, because you're essentially saying I'm okay to die to the desire I have to be in an intimate partnership with someone, to be seen, known, and loved. And if that's where you come back to that value assessment. What do you value most? You value your country club, you value your family staying together in the pews at church or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, then you've got to, be okay that you're going to slowly die not being seen or known or loved. And
I think I felt that way for a long time, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I'll make this work. I've got, and whatever but now that 3 years out and dating, it feels pretty daggone good to not feel like a shell of a person.
Oh, hell
Yeah.
It
yeah. I
feels
mean, hell yeah.
so good, so damn good. And I think that it's unrealistic for people. Everybody goes through honeymoon stages, not just in relationships, right? It's with your job or
Yeah.
with new friendships and all that. You have to learn to kind of navigate that as well. But, you know, to feel good and to have human touch again and to, be like, "Oh my god, I get to go. I get a second chance at this."
It's
It's fun.
incredible. It's
It's fun.
incredible.
And you find a person that
Yeah.
you really enjoy doing that with, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
I wish I would have done this earlier."
Yeah, it's pretty great. But the
I know.
the second part of your question, Kate, is if they're not sure, you've got to have, in order to really make it epic, you've got to have a partner that is willing to work. So you go to your partner and you say, I'm really unhappy. Like we've got to go. I did that with my ex-husband. Like we've got to at least try. We've got to throw everything at this. We got to do everything. We got to exhaust all options. So that is going to counseling, going to coaching, going to therapy, like getting in and getting that objective perspective of like,
Okay.
yeah, you guys can do this. Here's some tweaks. Here's some pattern. That's what I do with couples that want to stay married. Here's some tweaks. Here's a pattern change. Could you do this once a week? Could you leave her a little note?
Okay.
Like, let's find ways to help you guys come back to each other, to rebuild that fire, that intimacy. Try it. And then, 6 months from now, if it's still not working, that's when you come back and have an honest conversation. Like, could we possibly both just be really happy with other people who are kind of maybe innate personality, better matches for what I need for my tank to be filled and what you need for your tank to be filled. So like when people are like, marriage is supposed to be hard, it's supposed to be a slog, it's going to have ups and downs. Yes, it will. But if it always has this underlying low simmer of, is this the right person? Should I be with someone else? Could this be easier? I know it will still be hard because all relationships are hard, but could it be hard and not have this underlying dis-ease, like a feeling of dis-ease? And I am here to tell you, like, now that I am in the right marriage container with the right person, our marriage is hard as shit. Mark Howerton is a pain in my ass. Like,
Right?
we fight all the time. He's so fiery. I'm so fiery. My marriage now is much harder than my first marriage, but I never wake up and wonder, is this the right marriage? Is this the right person? Should I be somewhere else? And that piece is priceless.
Okay, Raleigh friends, thank y'all for joining us today. We hope you got some good stuff out of this. We're obviously going to have Anna back because she's so good and there's so much to talk about.
Yes.
So if you
not
have
just everything.
additional questions or want any other topics covered, send us a DM. We will also include Anna's information.
Anna, thank you so much for being here today. We've loved having you.
Thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
You are
Wealth
so
of
great.
information.
Yeah.
It was
Thank you.
great.
Yeah.
It
Thanks
was
so
great.
much.
All right, Raleigh peeps, stay rooted and a little reckless.
There
See
you
you next
go.
time. Bye.